Hi, and welcome to the very first edition of Lazy Book Club. I'm your host, Dr. Megan Monday. So glad that you're here. I first thought of Lazy Book Club a long time ago because I love to read and I go through periods of time where I read a ton and then I go through reading droughts where I just get super busy and I forget the pleasure of reading. And yet, I, maybe like yourself, am obsessed with self development. And so this was my cheat, learning to look at YouTube videos to just get the synopsises of books. Was that like instant gratification, instant satisfaction way to read things when you're busy? And so I thought, why not run with that, right? Also, I have a bad habit of like checking books out at the library, which I totally got this one at the library, and then not reading them. So, sort of using a book report, I thought, I was in grad school for a million years. Let's just go with what works and hold myself accountable. So, the book that we're doing today is Deeper Than Money. I got it at the library. I'm always looking for a money mindset book. I know times are hard. If you believe that, well, let's not say that. Times are legitimately hard. I think that can be a scarcity belief, right? And it can objectively be true. So let me just hold the duality of both of those things, right? And when I was looking into researching the author, I think I'm not 100% sure. I'm like 95% sure that I saw her speak. And she now has the book. So I tried to look up the conference to see if indeed she was one of the speakers, and I couldn't find the set list from back in 2021. But I'm almost positive that this is her and her story. So I'm just going to pretend like it is, whether it is or isn't, but we'll just go with that. So we got Deeper Than Money, and this is just kind of the cliff notes, so to speak, of how do we hack our money mindset. So, I'm always into some money mindset work. So let's get going. All right. So you may not have thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend on coaching. So let me just give you the cliff notes of coaching. It's all about mindset. Okay. And I can kind of get behind that as a psychologist as well, because we know self-fulfilling prophecy is indeed very true. And so it is one of those things, right? So I think if you're an entrepreneur, if you're not, I think it's always helpful to work on money mindset, because we get so many bogus beliefs about money, about scarcity, about hustle culture. And that's what I'm here as the pleasure psychologist to do, is to tell you that we don't have to live that way. Okay. We've been programmed that way and it feels true. And you can see it's true in our society, right? But I can tell you, as someone who took the entrepreneur path, there is a way to exit the grid, okay? And a lot of it starts with what you think is possible, okay? Because whether you think it is or it isn't, you're right, okay? So we want to think that it is possible. So, who am I? Why should we be listening to me? Well, if you're on my channel, hopefully you already know that I'm Dr. Megan Monday. I am branded as the pleasure psychologist, former trauma therapist who basically just kind of got burned out on how tragic and awful life can be sometimes, and really thought, God, what do I really want? And not just me, what do my clients really want? We all want pleasure. We all want to feel good. Okay. My past life as a DBT therapist as well really taught me that positive events, self-soothe, are all super crucial to emotional regulation and feeling good. So let's pleasure read without the actual reading. We'll just kind of drop the knowledge here. So I told you who I am. Let's meet Chloe Elise. I'm going to do a little bit of an eye roll here. And I can remember watching her presentation and doing a bit of an eye roll then as well, because she is the founder of Deeper Than Money, a global financial literacy company dedicated to empowering and educating people on how to build guilt-free wealth. Okay, I could totally get behind that, right? But after paying off over $36,000 of debt in 18 months, okay, I want the book on how to do that, because I think many of us could benefit from that. She became debt-free at 22. Okay, that's my eye roll moment. Okay. But her whole thing is to not sacrifice the lifestyle, which I think is good, because we've all known the latte factor. Yes, lattes can add up, right? But most of us don't want to sacrifice the pleasures to build wealth, right? And we definitely don't want to feel guilty about it. I mean, I think most women get so much energy, waste so much energy by feeling guilty over everything, right? The mom guilt is real, right? So I can say, as someone who is a Generation Y, that I am having a little bit of a, I don't even know, she might not even be a millennial. She's on a mission to become a millionaire before she turns 28. So yeah, here's the thing, when we compare, we despair. Okay. So, like, if you haven't hit your $1 million year, I've collectively, I think I'm almost there with my 13-year-old business. It's sad. I thought I'd make way more as a psychologist, but here we go. Okay. We should all be millionaires, right? If you haven't read that book, I read that book a few years ago at the beach. Total game changer. I think I actually may dig it out and reread it because I'm about to go to the beach next week. But we'll definitely have to add that to the list. And she's got a new one coming out. Rachel Rogers, love her. She's a little less of an eye roll, so she might be a little bit more palatable. But here's the thing. When we come from the pleasure approach, when we do those eye roll moments, it's because we think that we can't have it. Okay, that's a limiting belief. We're going to talk about limiting beliefs here in this presentation. I'm calling myself out for my own limiting beliefs. So when you feel tempted to do the eye roll of like, oh God, how is this person so successful at this point? What about me? I just want you to dig a little deeper, because there's probably a belief in there that says you can't have it. And I'm here to tell you, you can have it, right? It may take some work. It will take some work. It will take a whole lot of mindset work, amongst other things, right? But you can have it. And so it's not a race. We don't want to compare and despair. But if she can have it, and if this wasn't the girl that I saw at the presentation, then that means there's another young blonde influencer who's also done the same thing. And actually, I think there's probably like many of those. So it is totally possible, and not just if you're young and blonde, right? But for everybody, right? So here we go. Let's see if we can go deeper than money. And let's see what she says here. Ditch money shame. Okay, I'm here for that. We don't like shame. Build wealth. Okay, I'm definitely here for that. And feel confident as yeah, I can be here for that. Okay. Now this one is a little more eye rolly. How I went from broke girl to millionaire without giving up my lifestyle. Okay. I guess she's made it. That's interesting. Okay, she's claiming millionaire. Okay, I guess I don't know why her bio says to become, but anyway, we'll give her the benefit of the doubt. Personal finance, but fun as hell. Let's see if she lives up to her claims here. I think she might be overpromising a bit, but we'll see. Okay, let's get into it. Lazy Book Club. Okay, this is done for you. You don't have to read it, although hopefully this will perk your interest. And I am not going to go over every single thing, because how could I? But, I'll give you the cliff notes of it. And if you like it, go back and read it. I do want to say reading is fundamental. So obviously, I do find that reading is one of my favorite pleasures. And that's why I've incorporated it into this channel. Okay. So I gotta say, she lost me in the first section. Basically, she talks about, obviously it's deeper than money. That's the title, number one. Two, she talks about some broke girl problems. Okay, again, I don't know if she's Gen Z. What are my gens? I can't even do math right here, but she's probably on that cusp, I would say. And so some of this stuff is not super relatable to me as a 40-something, okay? Including her final point, which is, Justin Bieber is hot? Truth or belief? I feel like cringy even just like saying this, because he could be my son. Could he? No, well, maybe. Well, yeah, no, I think he could if I was like a teenager. Okay, he's not. But her claim, which this is sus, is that Justin Bieber is indisputably hot. I'm guessing that she was maybe one of those like tweens at the height of his career. So I guess there was a lot of maybe programming and indoctrination that comes with that. Okay, that's not who I think of in any way in that regard. So I do reluctantly enjoy a few of his songs. Zumba, but that's about it. Okay, I can't appreciate this meme that you are too hot to be depressed. So if that's you, Justin Bieber wants to let you know, don't waste your time on depression. You're just too hot for that. Okay, so if it was only that simple. So she makes the point that in her mind, Justin Bieber being hot is an indisputable truth. I'm going to say that that's her belief. Okay. But That's the case that she makes, right? And then she kind of ties that to the ancestral BS part. So certainly, between depressions and wars and financial ups and downs, certainly our ancestors went through a lot of scarcity and financial trauma potentially, and so a lot of those things are part of our society, part of our social conditioning, and what she calls ancestral BS. I don't know. I gotta say, this whole little section is a little bit cringy. I'm not super into it. She does have like a few fun things later on in the book that make finance a little bit more fun, but this one, I gotta say, like, if I wasn't doing this thing, she probably would have lost me on the first section here. But basically, we're gonna do some belief money mindset work, is what she's trying to set up here. So eloquently in such a okay, y'all. You're going to see some of my wrath for the coaching industry. I've had some beautiful experiences with coaches. I have some coaching offerings, right? So not all bad, but I do think we get the fusion of marketing and coaching gets into this like, and I'm totally guilty of it, but where we go like BS beliefs and badass beliefs. Okay. Just to try to make it cute and palatable, whatever. Okay, fine. All right, here we go. Chloe's bullshit beliefs. Money is always and will be something inherently stressful. Okay, let's psychoanalyze Chloe a little bit, okay? Maybe parents were fighting about money. Maybe mom's crying because she like overdrew her account. Maybe dad's like working all the time and really like sacrificing for the family. And so she really grew up with these. I'm just speculating here. I'm making a backstory. I don't know who Chloe is, but these are really common things that either I've experienced or my clients have experienced. So I think maybe you've experienced it, right? Okay, here comes the hustle culture. You have to work your ass off to get by, but never actually get ahead. Okay, that one I think I personally need to do some serious deconstructing because after like a dozen years of college and academia, and then entrepreneur life, I've definitely spent the past 2 decades kind of working my ass off, albeit part time, but some heavy lifting, right? And so this belief, I gotta say, I feel like has held me back the most with my coaching business because it can just, it's hard, right? To receive, right? I just did a video review of Billie Eilish's new music Lunch and talked about like blocks to receiving, right? But this is a really good example of a belief, right? That comes there. So maybe like Chloe was a valedictorian, maybe she was like a people pleaser, maybe she was like on student government, maybe she was like a cheerleader and she was like top of the pyramid and she like got dropped a few times, gave her some trust issues, right? Again, total speculation here. I'm just making up a backstory. Wanting more money is greedy. I think I left the Y off. Rude or embarrassing. Okay, so there's the shame part, right? We're getting in some negative emotions there. And so feeling like wanting more, like my desires are not okay, which we want to banish that belief as the pleasure psychologist because your desires are meant for you. And so if you're really feeling this longing for something, it's for you. It's in your mind for a reason, right? And so we want to not turn against our desires, but listen to them and like really go deep with them and see what messages they have there for us. So they're just doing a little like cognitive behavioral restructuring here. We're gonna turn the mind, as DBT would call it, to healthier beliefs, right? So money gets to be fun, easy, and stress free. Okay. So, like, how would we practice this kind of thing? One thing that I've noticed about money is that people tend to stress about money whether they have it or not. Okay. Sometimes people who have less money actually stress about it less than people that do have money. So, all to say, very subjective. But for example, if you're paying for something, instead of being like, oh my God, can't afford this, I shouldn't pay for it, instead be like, there's more of that where that came from. And again, you can kind of decide for yourself how delusional you want to be with that sort of thing. But I will often say that because I do find myself sometimes being nervous about spending money, even if the money's in my account, right? And it could be something silly. It's just like a habit, right? Where we stress over the transaction, right? And so that could be a moment where we could say, no, money gets to be fun, easy, and stress free, right? Think about how your life would change if that was true. Okay, it can be really powerful. I do feel like getting money is fun. Is it easy? It can be. Is it stress free? Maybe that's the one I need to work on. We'll see. But let's see if we can embody that more in your life, because I do believe that the more you root into that belief, the more that that will become true. And so we can look for evidence. It doesn't mean that $1,000,000 shows up in your account overnight, but it could be that, say you get like a birthday card and it's like someone gives you $100, maybe an old relative, and they say like, just do something fun with it, right? So that could be evidence of money gets to be fun, easy, and stress free. You're doing something fun with it, you got it easily, and it's for pleasure, right? Money always flows to me with ease and not solely on my work ethic. Okay. All right, hold on. Let me put this in my affirmation thing. A little recommend here. We're going to do it in the moment because that's my motto as a mom. If I don't do it right now, I probably won't do it. So, yes, we are on a YouTube video, but we're going to make this happen. Don't cut this part out, Andrea. This is part of it. I use this app called Yap, YAPP, and you can put your own affirmations. Money always flows to me with ease and not solely on my work ethic. I know my editor's like, yep, we're working on that one. Okay, so basically, I don't know if you can see this very well, but you can program in your own affirmations and then it'll send you a little push notification. And what's really cool is that I'll think I'm getting a text where someone's asking me for something and it'll just be like, you're a badass bitch. And so that's fun to just get the reminder. And then I do find like the affirmations start to kind of signal me where my negative beliefs are and when I need to shift in the moment. Like if I'm people pleasing, it might send me like a don't people please affirmation. And then I'm like, oh yeah, okay, thanks for the reminder, universe. All right. When I build wealth, my overflow creates a massive impact on those I love and the people, places, and organizations I care about. Okay, now I have seen this to be true of the people that I've given my coaching money to. They do really help other people with it, redistribute the wealth, empower other women to make money, big money. And I do believe that mucho bucks in the hands of women is the way. Okay. We've seen the men do it. They didn't do a great job. Okay. We need the women who like care about humanity to have the funds. Okay. So that's part of the Pleasure Psychologist mission as well. Okay, so you can see the difference between the BS beliefs, between the badass beliefs. Basically, we can boil it down to like, you get to have it. And that's an affirmation I've been working with for the past couple years is like, you decide you get to have this. Okay. Okay. Have you ever played the Never Have I Ever game? Okay, we're not going to drink to it, but I thought that this would kind of fit with the way that her book is structured. So let's play Never Have I Ever Money Edition. Never have I ever spent too much money online. I'm going to say probably everyone has done this at some point. I mean, this is a pretty, I mean, hello, like after the past few years, yeah, I think that's probably maybe a universal one. I find that if I go into a store saying, I don't want to spend too much money, I'm focusing on the thing that I don't want, which is actually kind of almost like asking for it. And instead, I'll say, I'm just going to come and get exactly what I wanted. And that's more like a positive going towards a desire rather than like a don't do something. And I find that that's much more in alignment. And that's what some of this book is talking about is like, how can we make money beliefs and money decisions based in alignment? Right. So she talks about beliefs, thoughts, feelings, actions, result, BTFAR. And so this is just an example of the BTFAR strategy here. So the belief is it's bad to spend money on online shopping. And then the thoughts. So the belief is that it's bad. The thought is, I seriously need to knock it off. Okay. So kind of like a self-punishing vibe there.
Okay.
Thanks, Siri. Siri was listening in here. And then the feelings after it's like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. When we should on ourselves, if you say that fast, you kind of get it. When you should on yourself is when we judge and are too sort of like shame spirally, right? And so the feelings is the guilt and shame that our time and money is spent. Okay. So we go into the shame spiral. And then here's the really important part. The action is we get in the screw it mentality and justify the purchases. Well, I'm already in the shame spiral. When we get in the shame spiral, DBT would say that we're an emotional mind, which actually means that our logic mind has gone off the window. So then we get into all or nothing, screw it. Okay, well, I'll just do what I want. Okay, in an unhealthy way. And then the result is a cycle of spending that is out of alignment. Okay, and so in a weird way, the negative, I shouldn't be doing this, is actually perpetuating it, right? So I often say to my clients, people think that if they practice self-acceptance and self-compassion, that they will end up just laying on the couch eating potato chips and that they'll never get anything done. However, the opposite is true. Often when we beat ourselves up and we judge ourselves a lot, that's when we get that screw it mentality and want to sit on the couch and eat potato chips, okay? So it's weird. We think being rigid or punitive with ourselves is the way to self-discipline, but often it just creates a cycle of rebelling against ourselves and being self-destructive, right? Which we don't really want that. Instead, we want to do what we want to say we want to do. So that's not to deprive ourselves, it's to be conscious and to bring it into the light and bring it into alignment. So it's like I can buy something online and maybe I need to wait till payday, or maybe I need to find a good deal, or like I have a budget, something like that, right? But if you take one thing away in this belief system work, I want you to really watch out for the shoulds. Whenever I hear a should come out of my mouth, which is not very often because I try never to say it, I immediately switch it to could. Okay. So if it's like, I should not spend money online, I could not spend money online, right? Because even if I said, like, I should eat ice cream or I should have $1,000,000, as soon as you say should, it almost makes you not want to do it, right? But if it's like, I could eat ice cream, I could go to the gym, I could have $1,000,000, I could write a best-selling book, whatever it is, okay? The could is the language of possibility. The should is that scarcity hustle, sort of punitive, rigid language, which tends to backfire. If it worked, maybe that would be a thing, but it tends not to work. Oh gosh, you can tell by my eye rolls already. This is a big one for me. Never have I ever felt behind. I think this is the sort of piece behind compare and despair, is that when we compare ourselves, we automatically feel behind. But really, like an oak tree wouldn't compare itself to, say, bamboo tree, right? One's really big, one's kind of skinny. It's just not a fair comparison because they're totally different types of trees. Well, same thing with humans. If you have a dying need to compare, what I would suggest is compare yourself to the past, right? And so I think this is the part of stepping into main character energy, okay? Instead of just like scrolling and then feeling like, oh my God, this person's in Paris and this person's got a 7-figure business and this person's credit debt free. Don't do that to yourself, okay? If you are scrolling and those things are on your feed, say like, I can have it too. I'm stepping into main character energy, okay? And some of those things you may not even want, right? Like maybe you don't like Paris, or maybe you don't necessarily want the 7-figure business. You just want to just like have enough money to pay your bills and some extra overflow, which is such a nice feminine sort of pleasure-y vibe. I've been working a lot with the overflow department. This feels like very feminine energy to me. And so, her point behind here is that I think women often get told that their ideas are stupid. Okay. And so, especially, we get a lot of this if you're entrepreneur life, because we have a lot of status quo people like enforcing the status quo. And like these might be your parents, your partners, your loved ones. Okay. And it's not all bad. They're trying to protect you from danger. And the internet and like investing and business, it can be a dangerous place, right? There's some risks there. But a general word of advice is don't take financial advice from someone who's not at a point where you either want to be or even like less than you. The whole reason people work 9 to 5s and stay on the grid is because they are scared to kind of go out. Well, that's not true. Let's not say that. That makes it sound too harsh. People who want to be entrepreneurs but don't often are scared of the risk. I remember when I was starting as an entrepreneur, I thought, how am I going to get my health insurance paid for? My husband and I actually got married a year before our wedding so I could have health insurance and start my business. Okay, so like legit, there are real fears. And so I think we get told this lie that it's safer to stay, working a 9 to 5. And for some people, if you love that and you have a great job, I totally honor that. Okay, sometimes I wish I had a 9 to 5. Okay, gonna be real with y'all. However, if you have a dream to do something like a YouTube channel or write a book or have $1 million or travel the world or whatever it is, your dream isn't stupid, okay? It is valid. It is important. I want to see you go for it, okay? And so this is about getting into the main character energy of worthiness. I deserve to have my dreams. Oh, I have a great affirmation for this one. The universe shows me that I can have faith in my dreams. I love when that one pops up. I'm like, okay, universe. Universe and I fight sometimes. I'm like, okay, I'm overdue. Like, I've been doing this for a long time. When's it coming, right? But that's a scarcity belief in itself, right? And so we got to have so much faith as an entrepreneur, as a dreamer, as a visionary, right? And so this is why it's important to step into main character energy. Okay, never have I ever been shamed by the financial industry. Oh my gosh. I've watched those envelope stuffing videos. I've gone to real estate seminars. I've been shamed by financial advisors. I've definitely had some shaming experiences. Tell me in the comments if you've felt shamed by the financial industry, okay? A lot of times it's like, you shouldn't be buying anything until you pay off those credit cards, right? And now, as I mentioned, it is a hard financial time, right? We've been going through a lot of upheaval. There are legit inflation. People are having cash flow problems. We're not spending, right? And so we see that affecting, I know it's affected my business, right? And so, like, I don't want to say it's not real. I do think mindset can be a buffer, but then that provides that little like delusional piece that you have to kind of latch onto to make that work. So there's that. So I think it's like you can be real, it's real, and I'm going to find my way through, or it's real and that doesn't apply to me, or it's real and I have a plan for that. Something like that, right? But often the shame, it's that whole sitting on the couch eating potato chips thing. When we get shamed, a lot of times we get stuck, right? And the difference between something like guilt, where it's like I did something bad, and shame, like I am bad, is that shame is an unproductive emotion. So anytime we're feeling shame about anything, that's the culprit. Okay, we want to release that shame as much as possible. And basically that just means that, like, you are good enough. Okay, you are not bad for making financial mistakes. I've made a lot of financial mistakes, many. Many. I've probably invested 6 figures in academia, in my getting a PhD. I've invested that much in spiritual work. I've invested that much in growing my business. Okay. I've invested a lot in this. What's in between here, okay? And some of those have really panned out. Some of those will pan out in the future, right? And so I think I'm just being real with y'all because I think a lot of times we don't get the realness in the industry. We get the like, oh, make $1 million in 20 minutes, which that's a scam. Okay. I've not seen that happen in a real way. Usually those are scams. Okay. I wish someone had told earlier. Okay, that's not real. All right, moving on. Never have I ever set my money thermostat. So she has a whole chapter in the book talking about the money thermostat. And like, I talk about this sort of with DBT, they talk about distress tolerance, how much negative feelings can you tolerate before you want to explode, And then for me, I've turned it to like how much pleasure or that like upper limit can you hit before you think it's too good, and then you start, sort of self-sabotaging or upper limiting or however you want to call it. And so she talks about setting a money thermostat and like really gauging like where you feel comfortable. And I think, again, this is incredibly subjective. Okay. She talks about like in her college days feeling like -50 in her account was like her low. Okay. But for someone else, like $1,000 might be the rock bottom their account can hit before they feel panicked, right? So, like, again, the threshold is really different. And so we want to sort of set our money thermostat. And again, a lot of times we have that upper limit of like, gosh, it took me like a decade of having my business to break the six-figure ceiling, okay, to make more than $100,000 in a year. And my husband and I were neck and neck. Who's going to win? Who's going to win? I passed him last year. Last year was my best year ever. So that was good. Finally it happened. Right? But part of that was that 100K was like a financial ceiling that I had programmed into me that I felt like was the glass ceiling. And to finally get through that was super powerful. And I can't wait to see where it goes from there, because when we shatter the glass ceiling, more incredible things become possible, right? So again, it's all about that upper limit. So never have I ever, now I gotta give her credit here. She does talk about actually like purposely screwing your budget. That's the whole like still maintaining your lifestyle piece, which I gotta say, I kind of appreciate it, because I feel like most financial advice, they do go like, stick to your budget, which is not always possible, right? And so I do kind of, as a rebel, I do kind of love that. She does talk about having like a realistic budget, and then sometimes it's just not possible to stay within a budget, right? And so kind of love that from a financial advisor person. And so again, she just talks about like different ways to make more money rather than cutting back on your lifestyle, which, yeah, I'm here for that. Okay. Have you ever had an alien probe? Okay, I may have to know about this one in the comments, right? But basically, she calls financial surprises alien probes. Okay, they are painful, they suck, they come out of the blue, not fun. Definitely had a financial surprise alien probe moment with this last round of tax bills. Was probably double any tax bill. It's a 5-figure tax bill, let's just say. It was expensive, right? Unexpected too. So, yeah, that's fun. Scraping together, you know, that much money. Like, it was amazing that was even possible for me. So, again, it was one of those things. Sometimes they show you actually like what you can manifest under a deadline when you have to, right? But basically, this is just normalizing that we all have financial surprises that hit us. I will say that I feel like that is a hard part about having a service-based business. There are ebbs and flows. Sometimes the money gets delayed. I do find that if you believe in Mercury retrograde, that's when the money gets delayed, y'all. For real. I'm starting to finally get those checks from the Mercury retrograde like a month or two ago. So just to normalize, yes, they do suck, but I do think it is an opportunity to build confidence, trust. Guess what? Those 7-figure earners, they're paying out a lot of taxes. They're paying maybe some 5-figure bills themselves, right? It's part of having that 7-figure overhead, right? And so, like, I remember my friend, when she hit an amazing part, she was able to get her business to like, an amazing new part. And she goes, Megan, all I did was add a zero. I was like, wow, you did a lot more than that. I mean, you have an incredible business, right? But sometimes you can feel that way. Instead of $50 coming up with $50, it's coming up with $500. Instead of coming up with $500, it's coming up with $5,000. Instead of coming up with $5,000, it's coming up with $15,000. Instead of 15,000, it's 100,000. Whatever, it's all subjective based on what kind of game you're playing here. Okay, money condoms. We just had to make money a little sexy here, which I'm here for. But money condoms, she talks about how do we protect our wealth. Now, as I mentioned here, I have invested quite a lot in my development on many levels. However, the one thing I'm not invested in, okay, don't do this. This is not like financial advice. This is not good, but not invested in my retirement, and I've not invested in my like portfolio, right? And so why? Why? Well, I do think that we're taught not to, right? And so I'm going to be remedying that this paycheck. Literally, I've got my eye on a few stocks that I've been wanting to buy for a while. I'm going to go ahead and make that happen. So, and my accountant said I better set up my business account retirement, or She's going to kick my butt. So both of those things are happening. They're on the list this year. But just to say, you may be like me and maybe you've invested in real estate or in your business or whatever, but like, have you invested in your future? And so that's where the money condom comes in. We don't want a whoopsie kind of moment. Okay, we want to protect our wealth, and there's many ways to do that. And I think it's about starting the conversation, because even the 7-figure coaches often do not have investments. And so some of the coaches that I follow and have worked with do, and they incorporate that as part of their training. And I think that that's super important. There's a lot of good YouTube channels. There's a lot of bad YouTube channels as well on financial advice, but there are those that exist. So educate yourself and protect your wealth. All right. I think this is the final never have I ever, which is match my vibe, elevate it, or get the out. So, okay, they always say in the coaching spheres to be like the least successful person in the room. I don't know if that's super helpful, because I think it's really easy to get in your head about that. But the idea is we want to sponge up from people who are more successful. Now, I do think mentorship is super powerful for that. I feel like mentorship, finances aside, is just powerful like in so many ways. I am a mentor. If you want to work with me, I've got things. Check it out. But I think this is a little bit of like good vibes only, which I know can be sort of emotional bypassy, problematic, but I'm also a little bit kind of behind it, because I do think it is important to have sort of a vibrational set point, and you want to be hanging with people who are in a similar vibe. And that's like the power of, for example, a mastermind or something like that, where you're coming together, you're learning from other people, and they're either matching your vibe, they're elevating it, or get the out, right? Not always easy with like family or friends or lovers. And so I don't know if I'm ruthless. I definitely am not with the GTFO vibe, but I do think in general, the way that I've done the workaround with that is I just don't listen to the people who don't get it. So that's a cheat. You don't necessarily have to get them out of your life, but I guess that's her recommendation on some level. I think that that is one of those kind of coaching things that doesn't totally feel good to me, because I think it's just more complex than that. It feels like a little bit elitist. So do what you will with that. However, I do think that it is surprising to see how many people close to you like probably don't want you to do well. And I think if you've ever tried to start a business or been a public figure, I think that becomes pretty clear. I've had that happen. And why don't we want people to be happy? I guess we just want it for ourselves. But again, back to the compare and despair. Okay, if someone else can have it, okay. If this like, oh, she doesn't have her picture. If this chick can do all that she has done, then you can. Okay, she is evidence. Okay, we're gonna bank this evidence that she can do it, and we can do it, right? Maybe we do have to be a little ruthless about it. Tell me what you think on that. So we made it to the end of the book. What do you think about Deeper Than Money? I mean, again, I guess I'm maybe a little older than her target market, so a few of the references were a little bit, didn't quite land for me. Maybe they'll land for you. But I think overall, it's not your typical boring money book. I was able to get through it. I think it is maybe a skimmer. I think you could kind of skim it and get what you're maybe looking for. There were some good, like, tangible activities and belief system changes. There were a couple catchphrases that were really good. And then some good stuff, like, I kind of skipped over this because I find it boring, but like your credit score and like here's a budgety kind of thing. So there's some tables and things that are good in here. So I think it could be worth a read. Get it from your library. She's got enough money. No, I'm just kidding. No, buy her book. But I do think in general, ditching money shame, building wealth, and feeling confident is, if you're here for that, I got you. But we're going to do it on a little bit more relatable, imperfect terms. That's what we're here to do. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. See you next time on Lazy Book Club.